If you have a dog that's been diagnosed with megaesophagus and he's throwing up, there's hope, and don't be sad. Behind me is my beautiful 17-year-old. Well, me and my wife, I adopted him. He's 17-year-old Lhasa Apso, soundly sleeping in the bed next to our 7-year-old Yorkie, and that's our soon-to-be 4-year-old party Yorkie. They just like to sleep in bed. But Miko, I've made a lot of videos on this channel. I'll put a link in the description below to the entire playlist of megaesophagus videos for you. Maybe it'll create some hope if you're in despair. But I'm making this video to give you a quick confirmation of something. I'm not a vet. I'm not licensed. Don't take any of my advice as a law. But there's one very hyper-specific video where I learned I got to be careful what I say, so I'm going to speak freely as my own opinion, okay? But anyways, my dog, when he has these megaesophagus attacks where he stays up all night vomiting. We haven't slept in 10 years. We're up till, I don't know, 4 a.m. last night, 5 a.m. the night before. He throws up all over the place, and he happens to be sleeping now. But so we have a special chair. We hold him up. I've made plenty of videos about this, but during this time period, I've become very, I guess, acute. It's called sensory acuity. You become very, just like doing anything, playing the piano, or how like maybe, I don't know, a dentist becomes hyper specifically aware of things in the teeth, or whatever it is that you do, or reading the Bible, right? Which I've been doing every single night before I go to sleep. It's been awesome. So you get this sensory acuity, and when I hold my dog, I've been paying attention. Like, so megaesophagus is an actual dis-ease, right? It's the peristalsis effect in the esophagus down to the esophageal sphincter becomes paralyzed, where the squeezing effect, like a snake, or if you watch anatomy videos of how the muscles will push food through the digestive system, through the large and small intestine, and push everything through. So as to the muscles are supposed to push in the esophagus down. And when it doesn't, everything pools inside of the esophagus, stretches it out, and then the dog regurgitates. And then if it gets into the lungs in the form of the fluid or the food, it can cause aspirational pneumonia. It's a very tough thing to deal with. So you have to hold your dog upright so the gravity pulls it down. And I could be pontificating this, but I feel like I've gained some sensory acuity and time by paying attention to my dog, by staying very calm in emergency situations in the middle of the night when my dog's choking and throwing up all over the place. And so, like I said, I'm not a vet, and I've made other videos about this. I'll put a link in the description below. But I've noticed if I grab my dog, I'm not saying you should do this, by his breastbone. We were just up north on an Airbnb vacation, and he was throwing up on the floor. I grab my dog and I cup him and I hold him physically upside down. I show this in this other video, and I'm patting him almost like if you were like choking, because I've realized something. There's two things. One, the esophageal sphincter, which exits from the esophagus and opens and closes to allow the food and liquids to exit the esophagus and enter into the stomach, opens and closes. That becomes weak or paralyzed, or stays closed and it won't open, and the food piles up. There's this thing I learned as an asthmatic when I was a kid. My aunt told me this. My cousin, who's now passed, had a very bad asthma attack and was rushed to the ER. Just hear me out. And she said that this doctor was like it was an emergency situation. She couldn't breathe. And my aunt's telling me about this because I'm an asthmatic. My aunt is very like psychically attuned or whatever. But she said that the doctor had stuck his thumb down underneath in the collarbone and pushed hard, and it hurt, but it released some type of tension to open up the lungs. And so when you press, we have all these points, right? There it is. I can feel it right there. And so when I press down underneath the collarbone, there's these sensitive points, kind of like acupressure, but there's also tendons, right? Ooh, right there. So there's tendons that don't normally get stretched. So upon paying attention and thinking about that, I noticed that my dog has a collarbone, and his esophagus goes way lower and below and underneath the collarbone and rib cage beyond what you can just grab and massage or help food go down. It's actually stuck in a lower point sometimes, right? So the two different things is one, when I'll go back to the upside down thing in a second, but when holding the dog up and patting and cupping him and putting him in his chair and cupping both sides and patting and holding up and massaging the neck, I will also gently and carefully and conscientiously with love push my thumb down underneath the collarbone and get down in there and squeeze and massage, and then go back to patting and cupping and rubbing his neck and then his back, all gently in an intuitive method, which is somehow uh, uh, recreating a peristalsis effect, working the way down using gravity, and then you could tilt him forward, up, to forward, up, forward, up. Because a lady on a YouTube video or a comment said she has a big dog who has megaesophagus. Every time he drinks, she'll make his paws go up and down. So I think about that: paws up, paws down, like you grab underneath, almost like he's a dummy. Paws up, paws down, paws up, paws down. And in combination with this, if you can get it to activate and get the food to go down, or through coercion, getting that to go down, right? So that's one thing. If by getting up underneath there, the second thing is the upside down. So if the dog is choking and there's fluid maybe has entered, maybe I pontificate, which means I tell myself a crazy story that I don't know is a fact. But I've actually held my dog upside down, like completely, and squeezing like very carefully. So it's completely upside down, right? That, and then I will grip him, and I don't know if you could do this with a huge dog, and I'm patting, and I'll hold him upside down for like 30, 40 seconds, right? And I think this is real, but I feel like the fluid that was stuck in the lungs, and I'm going to tell you something very interesting in a second, comes out and then back into the esophagus so it can get out of the lungs. But, and then, because I've done these techniques, I don't know if they're techniques, but and I've watched it work. I've watched my dog go from a suffering episode where he's choking and he can't breathe to now all of a sudden he shakes it off and then he's walking around. So the next thing I realize is, okay, so you know when you blow a bubble like with soap, it separates and pops and turns into a bubble and floats away. Well, what if that bubble, like phlegm, when you have phlegm or mucus, this sounds disgusting, but you could like blow a spit bubble. Well, imagine these little tiny tubes inside of the trachea, inside of the dog. It's like the breathing tubes. And then it splits. One goes, I guess, to the lungs, which splits again, and then the other one splits and goes down deeper into the esophagus that goes to the stomach, right? So inside of these little tubes, if the dog has food or in liquid that's pooling up, mixing with mucus or anything, and it's not gone down, it can create like a sheathing or a covering over. This is crazy. Over the bronchial tube or tubes, hopefully not both. And now the dog's suffocating because, like stretching, almost, it sounds kind of like a rubber over a ring, and it's just blowing up like a balloon inside of the bronchial tube, this thick mucousy phlegm that's stretching, and it won't pop. So air can't get into one or hopefully not both of the lungs, and the dog's trying to breathe, and this mucus is covering the bronchial tube and all caked up in there, and the dog is aspirating and he can't freaking breathe, right? So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, oh my God, my dog is suffering right now, and this is an emergency. So I'm not saying you should do this, but I've actually grabbed my dog by the snout, not too much because I don't want to hurt my dog, but I went like that, and the dog went like almost like a mouth to mouth thing. So I go, I blow up a quick short burst of air into the dog's mouth, and it's I did this before with my dog. It's a whole other story, but I had to actually give him mouth to mouth and CPR to resuscitate him, and it was traumatizing. I didn't sleep for about 3 months after, and I had to do it twice, resuscitate my own dog. but that's a different story. So I go that in combination with the rubbing and holding upside down, I have watched my dog go from a full blown episode of choking, suffocating, vomiting, hyper breathing, not being able to breathe, and even shaking. He does this thing with his neck. He sticks his neck up like he's totally suffering, right? To there's another thing I'm going to say, but to shaking it off and then just walking around totally fine, and he goes potty and he's fine, and then he's playing with the dogs and eating a bone, and I'm like, what? This dog was just suffering. So this is what it tells me. Medical condition, yes. Physically suffering, yes. Physically suffering because of an actual physical obstruction. This is a disease that allows creates an environment for a physical obstruction to happen, right? A physical obstruction. We look and we have this fragmented part of our psychology that disconnects when we think that something has, or somebody or something has, or an animal has a disease, a dis-ease. We say, oh, there's nothing we can do. I'm so sad. You get caught up in maybe your own emotions of like, oh my God, is he going to die? I love my dog. These are very real emotions, right? But what I'm looking at is like, oh, this is a physical obstruction. We remove the obstruction. You might have to do it once a week. You might have to do it several times a day. You take your dog out of suffering, prolong its life. So it's like if you don't remove that obstruction, the dog could suffocate, get fluid or food in its lungs, aspirate, get ammonia, and be dead in 4 days, or be dead on the floor in 6 minutes from no oxygen, and then now for the rest of your life. This sounds very mortally, brutal to say, but it's like your dog died, you buried your dog, and now the rest of your life you remember your dog died at whatever age. When you could have just in that moment been hyper vigilant, remove the physical obstruction. I'm not saying this will work for your dog. And then boom, now your dog just keeps living and living and living a full life all the way until it's like I don't know, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, whatever it is, like the full longevity of the dog. So through unconditional love and through loving, I hope I'm not upsetting anybody here, because your dog might be way worse than my dog. My dog goes like this. He has good times and then he has bad times. And just because he's laying there sleeping doesn't mean that he might keep us up till 7 o'clock in the morning. This morning, he might have an episode. We never know. But instead of becoming completely, this is another thing I've learned. Emotionally, it can wreck you and put you on the edge where you can become a victim and feel like, oh my God, why is this like your dog is like your child, he's your family member. So you just do whatever you have to do no matter what. I've actually spoken to other people about my dog, and I've had several people. I've learned it's a waste of time to tell people who don't understand certain things, because I've had several people saying, oh man, you got to put the dog down. You got to put it to sleep. And I'm like, whoa, like I thought you were like a good person. Well, you might be a good person in this area, but in this area, you're a completely unconscious person who would telling me I should put my dog down just because it's sick. Why did I even waste my breath even telling you about this? So people don't know how to perceive things, but I know what it's like. So this dog has taught me unconditional love. I created like a 30-minute long video where I was up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I went out on my front porch because I hadn't slept in weeks, and I wasn't complaining, but I talked about the whole process of megaesophagus and what it's done. It's wreaked havoc on our lives, to tell the truth. It's really, really, really tough. I don't want to get too personal because I'll get sad, but the dog has taught me unconditional love. So I don't know what's going on with your dog, but I hope you're okay. Because it's like midnight. I hope you're okay. I hope your dog is okay. You will get through this. There's a Facebook group. I don't know how many people post on it, and I barely go on it. It's called the Megaesophagus Dog Community. This channel right here I have a bunch of YouTube channels. I'm actually, um, I don't know. I know you don't care about me, but this channel specifically, one of my YouTube channels, I do like small business reviews. I post family stuff, and I happen to post a bunch of stuff about our dogs and maggot esophagus. We have a whole nother dog channel as well, and I've thought about creating an entire dog maggot esophagus specific channel, but I just don't have the time. So what I do on these videos specifically is I put the playlist below in the description of the maggot esophagus videos on this specific YouTube channel. If you go in the link in the description, you'll see a playlist to all the maggot esophagus videos, and then that'll take you around. You can watch them. They're actually, I believe they're very informative, and the comments that people leave below these videos are very, very informative. So I want to let you know you're not alone, right? If this is new and you're scared and you feel like your dog's gonna die, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know your dog. I'm not a vet, but I know that we got our diagnosis because our dog was sick and throwing up and he had pneumonia. We thought he was gonna die. We were crying, my wife and I. And that was 2015, 2014. It's been 10 more years because we learned how to take care of our dog. So, anyways, have a good day, and much peace and honor to you. Did I cover everything? There was one loop I didn't close. What was it? Holding the dog up, the upside down thing, removing the physical obstruction. If you can pop that phlegm bubble, the dog will be able to breathe immediately. I'm hoping. Holding the dog upright after it drinks or eats anything, and not letting it run you up emotionally to where it destroys your life. If you can hook your brain and heart and your body up to an electroencephalograph that tests for like emotions or anger or triggers or misery or victim when you're going through it, that doesn't help your dog. It just stresses you out. So if you can get to the point where even if it's in the middle of the night and you're cleaning up puke and taking care of your dog and rushing it to the vet, you just stay calm and you just do what you have to do, and smile with gratitude, because that's what unconditional love is. It's uncomfortable sometimes. All right, later.